starting their books too early. There is a common school of thought that's called in media res, and that sort of loosely translates as in the midst of things. And that is all about throwing your reader into the middle of the story. I think some of the reticence from authors to start too late in their minds is a lot around sort of like common practice of you should see your character in every day. And a lot of this comes from like Save the Cat, for example, with their story beats, is show your character in their everyday life before the story sort of starts. And we'll come on to this in a bit, but seeing characters in their everyday life doesn't necessarily mean seeing characters in their everyday life. Seeing Joe brush his teeth and then comb his hair and then put his shoes on and then go out the door is not a thrilling start to a story. And that is obviously a very simplified example, but it is the sort of like a very simplified example of what some people I see do. And that doesn't hook a reader, and it certainly won't hook an agent if you're going down the querying route. Readers are far more clever than we give them credit for. We don't need to tell them everything. They don't need to know everything about Joe and his morning routine from the beginning of the novel. And in fact, withholding the right information is a really fantastic way of creating tension, intrigue, asking those questions, making those promises from the start. And as a reader, if you put again yourself into reader's shoes, so sometimes half the fun of reading is actually drawing your own conclusions and linking clues up, whether you're reading murder mystery or whatever. It's going, aha, I understand that before your main character or narrator does. And that can be really fantastic. And hopefully you're starting to see the work that we've done in part one here is how you can now implement it into where you start your story, for example, because those expectations are going to feed into what sort of information you withhold, and what your character might think of it. I mean, in epic fantasy, for example, it lends itself to maybe giving a little bit more information, and maybe even info dumping than a contemporary romance, for example. And that's a genre expectation. So your reader is going to be a lot more forgiving of those info dumps in a first chapter than they would be otherwise. So